Awesome. That was a cool intro. Yeah, I thought we could just start off by introducing ourselves. I'm Jarod Cernousek. I'm an actor here in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm currently also a student at UNO, and I'll be graduating this May.
Hi, I'm Kacey. I am also from Omaha, Nebraska, but I just recently made the transition to Los Angeles, where I'm working towards film and television, and that's about it.
Hi, I'm Megan Mills. I'm currently in Lincoln, Nebraska, but I'm originally from Denver, Colorado.
Nice. So, what is everyone working on? How are those projects coming? I know it's been a couple months since I've done anything film related. I'm primarily stage and theater, and I've actually just started rehearsals for an upcoming musical. But are either of you two working on anything currently?
Yeah, so I just wrapped some things up. The only thing that I have on my list right now is a short film that I was cast in yesterday that I will be doing on April 2nd. Just a little something fun, working on a lot of student work. Megan?
Yeah, right now I have a short film coming up at the end of April and then a feature length in July.
Oh, that's super cool. That's nice. And then, like moving stereo, like that one was just at the Omaha Film Festival, right?
It was, yeah, that was actually the first short film or first any film that I got to see myself in. So that was a very surreal experience seeing it in a movie theater. But that one was shot last year in April, and that was a ton of fun. That was actually only the second movie set I have ever been on, so that was interesting.
No, that's awesome. I'm excited to see it. I know Andrew's posted some trailers and things. It looks awesome.
It was really
Uh,
good.
so like seeing as we're all actors, does anyone like have a moment when they knew like that was what they wanted to do? Or a divine inspiration that kind of set them on this path?
I was definitely an annoying kid who performed for my family. And so I was kind of brought into it that way. And I had a middle school teacher who you had to get like a special pass to do theater in high school. You couldn't just take it as an elective. So he gave me that special pass, and I've just been going along since. How about you guys?
I know for me, it was kind of in middle school. In elementary school, you were required to be in everything, and then once you hit middle school, you still had to be part of the play, but you could be backstage or actually audition to be in it and audition for roles. And that's when I started, and I was like, oh, I like this, and I don't think I'm gonna stop doing it for a while.
That's
How
super
about you,
cool.
Jared?
I was like first introduced to theater when I was like 6 years old. And so like before I got to high school, I'd kind of gotten both my feet wet and decided like this is something I really enjoy. So that's kind of been what set me on that path, and I've just stuck with it ever since. But now it's kind of like funny that I'm about to get like my theater degree and kind of at the end of my academic career, and I'm leaning a lot more towards camera work and actually being on the other side. So, well, it'll be cool to see where that goes. Um, those are cool stories, though. It's interesting how much like school plays a factor. I think, especially since we're here in Nebraska or started in Nebraska, that'll be kind of
Mhm.
interesting. What are some of your guys' inspirations? Anybody like have anything they draw from when it comes to acting?
I would go to say, in the grand scheme, I feel like all actors have an overactive imagination, and you can really picture it. And like reading books, reading fantasy, and being able to picture that, and like really then translating that to scripts and reading scripts and just being able to picture it. And you're like, yeah, duh, the character would do exactly that. And then taking the notes of whoever you're working with and putting those together, I think, is the best combination of that.
I'd second that. That was perfectly said.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you get like good albums specifically that are like, oh yeah, this is just a storyline that I like to listen to.
Cool.
Anyway,
So looking at roles, I know, like, I think it's kind of interesting where in Nebraska, obviously some opportunities are limited. So maybe it's something where, if you want to break into film, you're going to take any role that's ever offered to you. But are there anything that you guys look for, or what attracts you to some of the recent projects you've been working on?
well-written female characters is definitely always an attraction for me. um, being in Lincoln right now, I definitely have a lot of, oh, it's happening, I'm going to audition for it. But the ones that I have been in, I've been really fortunate enough to have incredibly well-written, well-rounded female characters. And just having that makes everything so much easier to do.
To bounce off Megan with my experience moving out of Nebraska, I have to agree that, like you said, Jarod, if there's a role out there, you'll be like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll apply. Because they come up, there's 2 or 3 characters you fit within a month, and you're like, yeah, I'll apply to all of them. But now here in Los Angeles, there's 2 or 3 characters a day that you would potentially be cast as. So you can be a little bit more picky and find things that are really going to help you and boost your career, and you're going to have fun doing, and you're going to like the people you're working with. So I think that has been such a blessing moving here.
Absolutely. No, those are great answers. That's really cool. I again try to look for a strong female lead. No, that's not obviously on my end, but like I can relate, and I think it's super interesting now that is the world is changing, the art is changing, and so looking for places now. I know for me, it's more of maybe this isn't a great time where a straight white male like has the microphone and is the lead, and so even now I'm like looking at projects in a different light and seeing how I can maybe support or fill a different capacity than I might have before. um, any fears like taking on a role? It's kind of the flip side of that question, but anything from our experiences that you guys would say stands in the way sometimes, or is that voice that you just have to silence?
I feel like with all of us having a background in theater, theater is like very permanent for the time. You're there with all your people. It's long hours. You get to know them really well. But once it's done, it's done. And then you don't have to ever think about it again. Whereas film and television is so permanent, and you're always going to be able to look it up, always be able to see it. So really, just making sure you're choosing the right projects, I think, is a fear that I have. And I want to make sure that I'm having a good impact on the world, like you mentioned, and not just doing something because I can, because I was cast. How about you guys?
For me, I know one of the fears is going into it, kind of getting in your head and being like, I'm not going to do this character justice.
Mm-hmm.
And just having to really trust the process and trust the director, trust the casting agents, casting director, that they've placed you in the correct spot. And then, of course, when you first start working with people, depending on your script, if it's okay, I have to do stunts or we have these elements, especially if it's not someone's long-term experience, if it's their first time doing something, you're like, okay, like what's our safety protocol here? And looking into that, that's been one that I've definitely had to pay more attention to.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that, especially the safety, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting too. Would you, I don't know about in your guys' experience, was there anything that you felt from like the education standpoint of like participating in the arts that kind of helped with that? Or like you mentioned with the safety, like that was not a conversation that I would have been having in like my high school productions. That was definitely something that came later in like college, and learning that there's a proper way to kind of do those things. So maybe that's not a fear that I have anymore so much.
Uh-huh.
Anything like that you guys think maybe like education played a part in?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the nose, just having that educational space, that safe space to make those mistakes and learn how to stand up for yourself as an actor. So if you're ever like put in an uncomfortable position, you have the words and the experience to back you up and make you feel better about having those sorts of conversations. And me and Megan went to school together, so I can speak for both of us when I say that we had plenty of those educational experiences there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
awesome.
We were really fortunate to have a class specifically designed around what does a professional set look like? If you have problems, who do you go to? Who do you
Hmm.
start with? What is an acceptable ask? What is an unacceptable ask? And how to stand up for yourself.
Totally.
Those are the things. That's what matters. Yeah, that's great. Cool. That's honestly probably a great spot. We'll toss it to a commercial and then come back. And I'm really excited to talk more about how we're all in different places, but how maybe some of those experiences are similar or super different.
Hi, my name is Carla Shaw. You can stop at 5 or 6 stores or just one. I don't need friends, they disappoint me.
Hi, I'm Todd LaRue. You could stop at 5 or 6 stores, or just one. I feel like a deer in the headlights of love.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming. You could stop at 5 or 6 stores, or just one.
You could stop at 5 or 6 stores, or just one. Can I ask you kind of a weird question?
You could stop at 5 or 6 stores, or just one. I am the queen of the universe. The waves part, and they engulf me, and the water is warm.
I can see the Statue of Liberty from here.
You could stop at 5 or 6 stores, or just one. I can't stand it when she touches me.
People say that time heals all wounds.
So I really want to ask, have either of you like been in a commercial or done a commercial? I was in my first like mini commercial, and of course it was one of those things where it's like 30 seconds and you were there filming all day, and then when it comes out you like spot your left shoulder just kind of behind that person, and that's it. But I'm just curious because I feel like it's a different kind of space.
I just recently did a commercial out here. I don't think I'm like necessarily supposed to talk about it, but it was really fun. It was just like a day thing. I was just like 1/8 of the commercial where I helped a guy who fell off his bike. And it was super fun, but it was definitely different. There's no like storyline or character to follow. They're like, yeah, just ride your bike and help this guy. And I was like, okay, simple enough.
Nice.
How about you, Megan?
I have not had any commercial work. That is not what I've been able to do, unfortunately, but that one was certainly interesting.
Yeah, so it begs the question, like, obviously we're actors. Have you ever played a character that is supposed to be like obviously acting, or been asked to give a performance that probably reads as bad or um, not great acting?
Not so much not great acting. I definitely had poor direction, if we want to say that. I had somebody in a scene where I was going to be like maimed. They're like, yeah, yeah, don't act. Psych yourself out and just really freak out on camera. Have it actually be you being scared. And I was like, no, I think I'm gonna try acting first. But I just kind of like nodded and agreed and then acted instead of that.
I think it's definitely the actor's job when there's like, even like a not great script, like it's not written well or it's the awkward direction like that, an actor's job to make it seem as natural as possible. And like, this might not all make sense, but I'll try to get it to make sense for the sake of the film or the project.
Absolutely. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
people are contradictory, so I guess this character is too, and that'll be fine.
that's great. Um, that's funny. I watch shows like The Office, and it's always interesting to see how like being in that would be so different than doing something, you know, like a Law and Order or type, right? Um, but I am curious then, saying like we've kind of touched on the education standpoint, but like, is there anything about Nebraska that either is good for growing as an actor, maybe bad for growing? And you know, obviously we're not all still here, and so maybe what prompts actors to leave Nebraska or come to Nebraska? I don't know if anybody looks at a map and says like, yes, I want to be an actor, Nebraska, baby. But yeah, any thoughts on that, you guys?
I feel like you can make a really good career, or pardon me, like a hobby out of acting in Nebraska and have a really solid portfolio there and get to work in a couple projects every year. But I think to make it full time and to have that be your only source of income, I don't think that is necessarily possible, at least for me in Nebraska. And so that's why I chose to move out. But I do think that there is a great theater scene and a great indie film scene in Nebraska that a lot of people don't know about. And that's really impressive considering like the neighboring states. We definitely have a big arts community there.
Yeah, definitely. I know educationally, I was brought to Nebraska because that's where I chose to go to college. And I think what really helped there was the work ethic of the people you're surrounded by. There's a lot of that Midwest farmer mentality of you're going to do it, you're going to do it well, and you're going to do it when you're told to do it, and it's going to happen. And there's not as much flakiness, I would say, in that respect. So there's definitely an excellent place to learn your work ethic. And then, of course, as Kacey said, I totally agree. There's an excellent indie film scene, but when it comes to more paid opportunities that you can stick to and pay the bills, that might have to be somewhere with a little bit more opportunity.
Definitely. I like what you said, Megan, especially about kind of the work ethic. It's like, you know, Nebraska, work with your hands, the good life. And I think that's so cool that some of that transfers into the arts as well. That said, do you feel like maybe there's anything from being an actor in Nebraska that maybe helps even after you've left, or that like there's any advantages, or just insights maybe? I've never lived anywhere bigger than Omaha, and so, you know, I have yet to experience that or see that. But yeah, anything that maybe like is an unsung advantage of starting in Nebraska, or just something you found helped?
I will say that, kind of echoing Megan in the like work ethic, like coming to Los Angeles, I already had a reel and I had some stuff that was from Nebraska. And so I had stuff to, you know, get the ball rolling. And now I have kind of a new reel with some Los Angeles stuff. So that, oh, there's me. And so that really helps. And just having those opportunities where if you came from, I don't know, maybe one town over, Iowa, and you didn't have as much, maybe you would not have such an advantage there. Oh, that's the commercial I was talking about.
He definitely looked helped. So like I would say you nailed it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll put that glowing recommendation.
Yeah, play it back. There we go. That's so cool.
So, Jarod, with you graduating next year, do you think that you will stick in Nebraska, or do you think you'll make a journey to somewhere else?
Yeah, that is the same question I have been asking myself for a while now. Right now, I do actually plan to stay in Nebraska, in Omaha, only because I'm not necessarily trying to pay the bills out of just acting right off the bat. And so I definitely like what we've said with that choice, I think determines a lot. Because again, while there are opportunities here, maybe it's not the best place to, you know, raise a family being an actor. But I know a lot of people out in Chicago, and I've heard a lot of things there. I considered grad school for a while, and so I was looking at some other places. But I think it's interesting how theater or film, arts in general, you could probably say, is such a like where you're living really has a big impact. Which I'm sure, real estate or lawyers like maybe could say the same thing, but that's definitely a thought I think every actor has to have, is decide, are you okay with moving? Do you want to stay here? Um, do you think, like, had you started in LA, would you have moved to Nebraska, um, for any purpose?
No, probably not. I mean, I have family there, so I'll always love Nebraska, but definitely I feel like I'm very thankful for my education at Nebraska Wesleyan, plug them. I felt like that really prepared me for out here. I could probably have taken a bunch of different acting classes and gotten the same education, but I wouldn't have gotten those great friendships and connections. So I am thankful for my time in Nebraska, but I'm happy I'm here.
Is there anything that when you got to LA, it was like, oh, dang, like I wish I would have had this in prior? Or like you said, was it pretty great to just, you had a solid foundation?
Yeah, so we definitely got a education that was toward Broadway, toward New York, toward stage theater. And so there is a lot of like, just random terms and things that I didn't know once I came out here. And I'm using context clues or asking questions when it feels like someone won't be annoyed by it, to figure out those things. And I notice on sets, people are always like, talking about the director of photography and all that. And I'm like, oh, I could name like 18 playwrights, but and so those sorts of things is definitely the difference there, but it's always a learning curve. I'm green.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. I got kind of the introspective question, but I'm excited to talk about your guys' futures and kind of where we all see ourselves in a couple of years, right when we get back from this break. Oh, we're ending. Okay. We won't be back after the break. So we should just touch on that real quick here. Like I said, I'm gonna be staying in Omaha. What about you guys? Big crazy things coming up?
More of the same here, working on my journey, hopefully getting some pardon me, representation this year is definitely one of my top goals.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely always the possibility of moving to somewhere else. Hopefully that's a little bit larger. I know for me, a goal is to be bicoastal. So hopefully I can find some representation that does that. That's also a goal for the year.
Woohoo!
That would be super cool.
Well, it was
Nice.
great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, it's super
so good
cool
to see everybody too.
to hear from other Nebraska natives, or alumni. Yeah, this was great.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Yes, and good luck and keep making art.
You too.